Okay, hey guys, welcome to today's episode. So as you can see, I'm in the seminar room here and we've tidied the place up. So we're getting this ready for our October event. I have a big event coming up in October on video editing. So I'll talk about that more in just a moment. But today's episode is all about content. Now, I want to give you some useful advice. Now, this is not intended to be business advice. This advice is for anyone who wants to put content out there to get exposure, raise awareness. It could be for your job to get hired. It could be because you're trying to get elected, or it could be some social issue. You're trying to bring awareness to some social issue. There's a lot of that going on right now. But you want to put content out there and you want to get maximum eyeballs on it possible. So I want to give you some advice about this, because I've been doing this now for a while. 10 years I've been putting out content, and some of it's been very successful. A lot of it has not. And I want to just tell you some things that I've learned along the way. First of all, there's a lot of options out there for you, and that's part of the problem for many people. Like, where do you start? Do you start on Instagram? Should you do YouTube videos? Should you build an email list? Should you do Facebook? And then after you pick the platform, what do you focus on? Because each platform has lots of different little strategies. So for example, if you're doing Facebook, should you start Facebook groups, invite people to your groups and put your content inside the group? Should you do a Facebook fan page? Instagram, should you focus on your wall, or should you focus on stories, or both? What do you do? So the first bit of advice I'm going to give you, this was learned the hard way. If you try and spread yourself too thin over too many platforms, especially when you don't yet have any traction, you don't yet have any pieces of content that have been a hit, that's a really bad idea. If you look at anyone who puts content out there who's become a major success as far as getting exposure and building an audience, what you notice is that the majority of them, over 90% of their results came from one platform. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples. One of the most famous ones, regardless of what you think of this person, there is no denying that they've been very successful using this content strategy, and that is Donald Trump. Now you might think, Donald Trump, what's he done with content? Well, what platform do you think of when I say Donald Trump to you? What's he most famous for? It's Twitter, right? His tweets. I checked and he's up to something like over 80 million followers on Twitter. Now, Donald Trump, from the day that he decided he wanted to get elected back in 2016, actually long before then, he was using Twitter, but he took it very seriously, focusing on that one platform. And again, whatever you think of Donald Trump, that's besides the point. There's a lesson to be learned here from what he did with that medium. But he put all of his focus on Twitter. Every single day, he was consistently posting on Twitter, putting out an average of 10 tweets per day. Many of them controversial, always polarizing, always what's on his mind, breaking many of the rules of social etiquette, spelling mistakes, all caps, all of that. But it worked. You cannot deny it worked. It got the attention of the media, and he played the media like a violin, like an instrument played by someone who's been doing it all their life. He got the attention. It clearly worked. You didn't see him getting on YouTube, focusing on Facebook, focusing on Snapchat. He wasn't spread over all these different platforms. He focused on one platform and he put all his attention on it, and it worked. There's also Casey Neistat. So Casey was one of the first YouTubers who started vlogging and started doing it with quality in the production. So he took it from just holding the camera out and following it, following yourself around and having the camera shaking and it being very poor quality, to actually putting in effort into producing a daily vlog And he did it every single day for something like almost 3 years, over 800 episodes, and he built up an enormous audience. I think it's over 12 million subscribers. I might be wrong on that, but it's a lot. But he focused on one platform. I'll give you another one. So Joe Rogan, I did an episode about Joe Rogan not that long ago. And Joe Rogan, he's done, I forget the number, but it's thousands. I think it's almost 2,000 at this point, interviews. But he's been doing this for a long time. I remember seeing videos of Joe Rogan on YouTube, from 15 years ago, a long time, and he's just been very consistent with it. But you don't see Joe Rogan so much on Facebook, not so much. You don't see him, definitely not on Snapchat. I don't think he's on TikTok or anything like that. He focused on doing podcasts, and within that whole world, he focused on just a few mediums. YouTube was one of the bigger ones. But he just did it for a very long time, and he was very consistent. All of these people that I'm telling you about, they were all very consistent. Dan Bilzerian. Okay, again, whatever you think of this person or not. And if you don't know who that is, you've probably seen his photos. But Dan Bilzerian, Instagram, he was doing that from the very beginning. So he was focusing on putting out photos on Instagram, photos that definitely caught the attention and the imagination of his audience. But he's been doing it for a very long time. And he focused on that. There's a guy who you probably haven't heard of, but he's in the UFC. He's a fighter in the UFC. And I just want to give this example. Because this, whatever field you're in, whatever your goal is with your content, this can work with a lot of things. There's a guy called Derek, I forget his last name, but he's a UFC fighter. And he's not like a world famous world champion or anything like that. But among the UFC, as far as putting out content goes, this guy is really, really good at Instagram. He's got an Instagram channel. It's got something like 1.8 million followers, but all he does with his Instagram account is all day long. There's usually at least there's 5 or more usually, but stories and wall posts, posting funny content. Funny being subjective. I personally find it very funny, but maybe you might not. But if you go and check out what he does, he's just posting short little video clips. Usually they involve people having doing silly things and having accidents, but he's been doing it very consistently, and he's built up 1.8 million people in his audience. Now, what do you think that's worth to him as a fighter trying to get exposure and trying to get bigger and bigger fights? It will do a lot for his career. Gary Vaynerchuk, YouTube was a big focus. Now he's slightly different. So he has focused on a lot of different platforms, and he's done it well. Someone like him, he can probably pull it off. But what I'm suggesting to you is you don't need to be spread across all these different platforms. You really can just focus on one platform and have a lot of success. And that's my suggestion. If you're starting out, forget about doing 2 or 3, just focus on one. So the next piece of advice I want to give you, this kind of goes against what I just said, but I'll explain in just a moment. Let's say you insist on having multiple platforms. You want to have multiple platforms and put your content out across them all. I'm going to suggest that if you really can't help yourself, just keep it to about 3 or 4 maximum. Because really, if you're doing more than that and you're just starting out, it's just, you really are spreading yourself too thin. But let's say you really want to do that. Here's what I'm going to tell you to do next. You need to build a spider web, okay? A spider web of pieces of content. And let me explain how that's going to look, okay? So let's say that you want to do Instagram, for example. So we're going to put here IG. You want to do some YouTube. You want to do some Facebook. And then last of all, good old email. Okay, which is my favorite, still is to this day after 10 years. So these are all different channels, okay? And you want to be putting out content across all 4. Now again, this is not business advice. I'm talking about any person who wants to put content out there for any reason can use this and get results, get more exposure. So let's say that you start putting out, you put something on your Instagram wall, right? A piece of content. Now, from time to time, not every single post, but I would say like once out of every 2 or 3 posts you want to be doing this. So you put that piece of content out there rather than sending them to your website or whatever it is you're promoting. From time to time, we want to encourage them to go across different platforms. So you post something on Instagram, 1 out of 2 or 3 times, you want to tell them, hey, go and check out this episode on YouTube. Like this could be a little preview on Instagram. Full episode is available on YouTube. So now some of your Instagram audience can go over to YouTube and subscribe, because on YouTube, on that episode, of course, you're going to tell them to subscribe. Now, on that YouTube episode, you might say, hey, look, do you have any questions, comments, feedback, or you want me to help you out with this, or you want me to clarify something? Send me a message on Facebook, and while you're there, add me as a friend, okay? And you get 5,000 friends on Facebook. I know people who built enormous content exposure just from their normal Facebook profile, not even a fan page or anything like that. But I think you get the point. Every single day you've got emails going out, right? I'm a big fan of just sending emails every single day. But every time you send an email, these can be sending people to various pieces of content that you have. So the whole thing ends up looking like this intricate kind of spider web, and that's the way it should look. If you have a lot of people on your Instagram audience, you want to bring some of them over to these different channels, because most people, when they're looking down at their phone, they are not seeing every piece of content that you're putting out. For example, if you send out an email, you're lucky if they actually open 1 out of 5 of your emails. And that would be insanely high, because most people, even if they do consume your content from time to time, they are not sitting there waiting for it. They're not opening or viewing every single message. A lot of it just depends on timing. Are they busy? Are they distracted on other things? So by posting content across these multiple channels and connecting them all, you increase the chances that they're going to see something. Now, on this point, you might look at this and think, wow, that's 4 channels. That's a lot of content, and it is. However, there are shortcuts. You can repurpose content. So for example, if you put out an episode on YouTube, like a vlog, like kind of what I'm doing right now, you can cut that up and you can repurpose it for your Instagram. If you're going to do that, make sure you really do repurpose it. So if I put a video on YouTube, I am going to resize it. I'm going to put captions above, below, to put it on Instagram, because I want it to look like it was made specifically for that platform and that audience. I don't want to be putting a video from YouTube onto Instagram and you see the little subscribe now call to action that you would see on YouTube. It doesn't make sense on Instagram. So you really do have to repurpose it for that medium. Sometimes I will write an email and that will then become a script or an idea for a YouTube episode. So you don't have to be creating unique content for every single channel. It's all about repurposing your existing content and putting it in the right dimensions or the right context for each individual channel. Okay, so the third and final piece of advice that I want to give you is don't worry about all the tactics out there about timing and platforms and all of that. Focus first and foremost on quality of content. Does it hit its mark? That's really what matters. Nothing else matters. So when I say does it hit its mark, what I mean is if your content is boring, or if your content is something that no one really cares about, then no matter what platform you get on, even if you're right at the very beginning, like on TikTok, you were there 6 months ago before it became more mainstream, it wouldn't matter, okay? Because if your content doesn't intrigue or arouse curiosity or interest or anything like that, or polarize your audience, if it's something people don't care about, all the tactics don't matter. And I see way too many people who want to get into the content game. They worry about all the little tactics, like, for example, what's the best time to send an email? Should you email at 8:30 a.m. For your recipients? Should you email at nighttime? Twitter, when should you post? Or when should you be tweeting? Instagram, when should you be putting out stories? How many stories is too much? Is 10 too many, or is it 5? What's the magical number? Way too many people focus on these specifics, and let me just explain why that happened. It happened because, and I know this industry very well, it's my background, but it happened because there's a lot of people out there teaching these tactics. They sell them in their courses. So they always have to be coming up with, this is the secret way, or this is the specific and only way you can leverage this platform to put your content out. This is how the super successful content creators do it. And if you want to find out how, then you need to buy my course. The truth is, the real truth is, all of that stuff is completely insignificant compared to what are you actually putting in your content. Really, that's what matters. Do you think, I was talking about Donald Trump at the very start about his tweets. Do you really think that he's thinking to himself when he puts out a tweet, what's the optimum time to be posting this? I mean, he doesn't care. He's just putting it out when the thought is on his mind. So if you look at the best people when it comes to content, they are not getting really specific about when they post, okay? And when I used to write emails, for example, I was sending them out to over 700,000 people. I never worried about the time that I was emailing. I could be on a flight going from here in Costa Rica to somewhere in Asia, more than 20 hours, closer to 30 hours. And I might be halfway, I've got 2 hours at the London airport or somewhere halfway between. I don't care what the local time zone is for my audience. I'm just writing the email and I'm getting it out. I'm not focused on all those little tactics. I'm focused far more on the quality of the content and does it hit its mark, okay? So that's what I suggest you focus on. There's no right platform that you should get started with. Don't worry about whether it's an emerging platform or it's more established. It really doesn't matter. Find out what your strength is when it comes to putting out content. If you're really comfortable in front of a camera and talking to a camera and you actually enjoy it, then you might consider YouTube. If you're excellent when it comes to photos, you being in the photos or you taking the photos and you love to do that, then maybe it's Instagram. If you're a writer, I mean, personally, I like to write. I like to sit down and write and put together a nice email. Then you might focus on email. Pick the form, the channel of content, and the corresponding platform. Focus on that, but focus on the quality of the content. Okay, so those are 3 tips for anyone who wants to get more engagement with their content. I hope you enjoy this. And by the way, if you like this style of vlog where I'm kind of teaching something, let me know in the comments. And also, you see this place where I am right now. This is the seminar room at Sunset Del Mar Beach Resort here in Costa Rica. You probably already know that. In October, later this year, I'm going to be doing a live training here. I'm going to be teaching a small group of students how to edit video. So how to record, edit, everything from start to finish. Whether they want to do a vlog or whether they want to use the video content for Instagram, whatever it is, I'm going to show how to use Premiere Pro, that's the software we use, to edit videos from start to finish. So if you have any interest in being a part of that, then there should be a link below. But I want to tell you something. It's not 100% training. I would say it's more 40% training. 60% of it is going to be having fun, going to local activities here in Costa Rica, zip lining. That's one of the ones that we'll be doing. So you can zip line from tree to tree throughout the jungles, exploring new waterfalls. There are many waterfalls nearby, magnificent waterfalls. Going to the famous Manuel Antonio National Park. You'll get to see it in all its splendor. Seeing crocodiles up close, and I mean like really close, 1 meter away, big crocodiles. I'm going to take you to a place that's famous for having a lot of crocodiles. We're going to be doing a lot more. So if you have any interest in being a part of that, send me a message or click the link somewhere below and let me know. I'll give you a phone call. We can talk about it. And if it's right for you, then you can get a spot and I'll see you here in October. But I hope you enjoyed this episode and I will see you tomorrow.